This is a video tour of the Emma Pedersen house, as you can see here, in its current status as of mid-September 2020. There's still a few details we're doing on the outside, but the inside's done. This house was built in about 1870, which is a companion house to this house, the Frederick Walter Cox house. And Frederick Walter Cox's youngest wife was Emma Pedersen of Denmark, who came over to immigrated to the United States in the mid-1850s with her mother and siblings, and came across in 1856 as a 6-year-old girl in the Willie Handcart Company, surviving that and ultimately settling here in Manti, as did her mom. Emma married Frederick Walter Cox as a young lady, and he built this house for her. This is Frederick Walter Cox's younger brother's house, Orville Sutherland Cox, which was built in the 1850s. I believe it was finished in 59, might have been 1860. And then he went on to settle Fairview, among other early Mormon settlements, while Walter Cox stayed in Manti with his family, and they helped settle this area. His younger kids settling the valley behind us, Emery County. It's kind of fun. Some of the homes you see on the corners are first generation Walter Cox kids' houses. Like that one there you see is the Lucia Cox Tuttle house, the youngest daughter of Walter and Emmeline, and she married Albert Tuttle. And you can't really see down there, but there's a rock home on the corner that was a son's house. The white house on the corner with the black shutters was a daughter's house. And the rock home down there is a son's house, Frederick Walter Cox Jr. Anyway, lots of cool pioneer heritage on this street. But let's go back to the Emma Pedersen tour. So we did a lot to this house. It's one of the very few homes in existence, at least in Utah, with the old Nauvoo style stepped gable. I know of no other standing home in Utah with this. This is a very common style in the early 1840s in Nauvoo. It was also common for churches in Northern Europe, such as Denmark. And I wonder if Emma had a say in how this rock home looked, in that it was different, different style that she could make kind of her own. Stepped gables were popular in the era because workers could safely work from the platforms of the gable and construct taller buildings. This was covered in stucco when we bought the home, and we did not realize that there was oolite limestone, the same as this home and this home, until we started doing some repair work around those D-shaped window openings. We realized the stone around the D shape was oolite, and we kept going. And after realizing it was oolite, we couldn't simply re-stucco it. We had to peel it off. We left the stucco on the sides of the home, however. Since we had just paid to have it redone and the way the trim and everything's attached, we just kind of kept it the same. But what we did is we kind of fused the front to the sides by stripping away about 2.5 inches of stucco, moving it back, and then I created a straight line here and then mortared it in with the same mortar as I used to repoint the stonework. The mortar is a higher concentration of concrete, of Portland white cement, so hopefully it'll last a little bit longer along that edge there. Goes all the way up. So we've done a lot of the west and northern wall that you see here, and we have the south and eastern areas to finish. So that's original trim up there. We added this concrete curbing down here just to give it some protection. There was some semblance of a curb there before, but in any case, it looks a lot better. Added some trim around the windows. We painted everything to kind of match the colors of the parent house here. So this is a London smoke color, kind of a greenish, bluish, grayish color. This is the back door to the kitchen. This was an additional structure added to the home sometime after Emma Pedersen, I'm guessing. And we made major modifications to this. We actually raised the roof about 2.5 feet back here and made it a lot more functional. But Emma would have had just this block home here, which was 2 rooms. That was a main level, a staircase to a loft. Let me just give you a quick tour of the backyard. Don't mind all the mess. We're just kind of pulling stuff out and cleaning up. And don't mind the backyard. We haven't gotten to the backyard yet. But you can see where we're at here. Added some cedar shake shingles to the gable there. It was in pretty bad shape. Where that little teeny window is was a swamp cooler when we bought the home, which was causing major condensation, mildew problems, and so we yanked that out, added air conditioning, put a little window in there. Like I said, we lifted this roof about 2.5 feet, added 2 big windows. There were little windows there, and then added the skylight. Frederick Walter Cox was big on windows. They lived for 9 years inside the Manti Fort during the 1850s, and this was their first home they had as a family, and the first true home, house I should say, that they had as a family. And so he built it with lots of windows for lots of joy, lots of happiness. And we wanted to do the same with this house. There was only a few windows, this front rock window here, the side window, a couple in the kitchen, and of course these little windows that go upstairs. And we added, I think, 5 more pieces of glass. So I'll get to all this side later, but it's partly painted. Just to give you a quick status update, we added some new trim along the fascia there because it was warped. You can see the cedar slats that we put under there, the tongue and groove. Some of that's local cedar. You can see how the roof is a little bit interesting. It's all logs, log construction from the 1870s, 1860s era. Let's go inside. Oh, this was a ton of work too. Redid a lot of the, filled a lot of holes, a lot of Bondo, a lot of wood filler, added the cedar shakes, some tongue and groove underneath, just painted the heck out of it, new roof. Just before we bought this house, this awning had caught on fire from a spark that came out of there, and came home from church one day and it was on fire. And this addition was under construction at the time, and it had also almost caught fire. So that was fun. So it was good to get this repaired and replaced and cleaned up and looking good again. This wood around this window trim was very rough. So I actually pulled the wood off and then scribed in new wood and then mortared around it. You can see the fit came together pretty well. Took me about me, my dad, my wife, about 1.5 months to repoint this wall of pretty consistent work. We had to chisel out, chink out all the old stuff, and luckily it was covered in stucco, and so it was pretty easy to pull the old stucco off and repoint this, where this house took us 1.5 years to repoint that monster, and it was never stuccoed, gratefully, but then it was repaired, and I use that term loosely, with gray Portland cement, which is the worst thing you could add to this soft oolite limestone. and that mortar was a real pain to get off. I mean, it took a lot of work to chink it out and then scrape it off the rock, because it just sticks to it like glue. It's horrific. Luckily, we didn't have that problem here. We just pulled the stucco off, pulled out some of the old mortar and some of the old mud, and repointed it. And I think this was this way. Originally, there was some speculation with the Historical Preservation Committee that this might have been stuccoed originally, which I don't think it was, because there was mortar in there, and they wouldn't have made the stone this nice if it was meant just to be covered. This is the exact same workmanship on this house as this house. Same stone from the same area of the quarry. I think the same guy made it. I don't know if it was Walter Cox and his kids. I'd read that they had hired a stonemason that did the work, but the boys would bring stone down from a few blocks away at the quarry, and they would work here. To why there's these D-shaped window openings, I don't know, but certainly makes it unique, as is this Nauvoo step flash, or gable. Pretty unique little home. It's just a little guy. So this is the style of door that we found on our house through historic pictures. So we started emulating by buying doors or having doors made that looked like this, the 4-panel design with 2 of those panels being window glass. So we added that back to here. If anybody has an old picture of this house, especially if it shows it being non-stuccoed, I would very much be interested in that. But this was probably the type of door that was here. There was a porch also originally here, and you could tell, I've got an old picture that shows it, but here's some wood bracing, or some wood that shows that where the porch was. We thought about putting it back, but this awning is so old, we wanted to save it. And now there's water, electricity, and gas where the porch would have been, and moving all that stuff around would have been a nightmare. But if you can see there, there's the wood pieces that have been pounded into the wall that supported the old porch. So this awning's at least 100 years old. You can see the 4-sided bolts there. So we went with that. Let's take a look on the inside. I'll take my shoes off here. Added a little tile landing. This was the original room where Emma would have cooked with her kids. She had 4 little kids here. There's a couple of beams underneath these faux beams. And when we had bought the home, the previous owner ripped out the boiler system. And the HVAC guys, I don't know who they were, but they very haphazardly ran ducting up that wall along here, and just, all bare. The tubular metal just stuck to the wall along here and then up to the bedrooms above. Why they did that, I don't know. So we tried to cover it as best we could. We added some extra sheetrock, making that opening to the stairway a little more narrow, but it hides the vent that goes up from the floor to the ceiling, as well as we boxed in all of that. Added a ceiling fan because we're big fans of those. So you got that window there and that window there, original. We added this door with the 2 windows. This fireplace was here, not original, but still old and cool. So we repaired that. The brick was pretty pounded and busted up, so we actually replaced the center broken pieces and replaced those, and then put an epoxy, a urethane on top to protect it. Framed it with wood, as you can see, to match the tile over here, but then the wood boxes it in where it was rough before. Added all new trim around the windows, and added all new sheetrock around this whole room. It was masonry walls before, and so we laid 2x4s flat against the wall so we could have a level surface. To start with, we insulated with high density foam and ran new wires for all new outlets. That's why this is a little tight there, because we brought the wall out about 2 inches. So it's a little bit smaller, but for the first time ever, this room is insulated, and it shows. It's a lot better. So then let's go upstairs. Here's the staircase. And for a pioneer staircase, this is not bad. I've seen a lot more narrow and steep. Here's the little electrical box. It's got a cute little handrail. It's probably about 30 inches tall. We've got shelving that's gonna go here. There were two butt ugly 1970s flat doors that were here, hollow doors. And we didn't have the stomach to put them back. So we found some old doors and had these installed. We really like this one with the window again, just trying to bring in more light. They're not exactly the same style, 5-panel door, but I think they look really good. Hardware is old, works great. Our buddy Hilberto built these shelves and did a lot of work inside here for us. And the Kimball brothers did a lot of the carpentry work, like these doors. They gutted and tuned up the hardware and fitted them in. Attic access for tiny little attic space. So this was all a big loft up here. These walls are sheetrock, so there might have been a brace or two, but I suspect that this handrail went all the way around in an L shape, and this was just open up here. But for now, there's two little bitty bedrooms. Pioneer style, so no closets, so we added some shelving in this corner, which kind of gives you a little storage space. New trim. See the little window opening there. This door hits the ceiling there, so we've got a little bumper. Look how ornate this is. This is a real find. We found this from our lady in Chester. Some contractor or somebody bought her home in her ancestral home in Heber City, Utah, and they were going to throw everything away, and so she salvaged the doors, which we appreciated. I just love it when people preserve stuff like this. This carpet is fairly new. We didn't replace it, but you can see where there was an old vent hole that we just threw some carpet in there. Doesn't match, it's close enough, and then this new vent hole is the one that the HVAC company added when they added the modern system. Although I would have preferred the boiler. I'm a big fan of radiant heat. That's what we have in our in the big house next door, and it's divine. But AC is nice. So this one has just a kind of a makeshift little closet. Just 2x4 construction, but it gives them a little nook to store a few things. And then again, Hilberto added this shelf. Pretty low ceilings in here. This is probably a 7-foot ceiling, and that goes down to probably around 4 feet, 3.5, well, probably 4 feet. So imagine Emma and 4 little kids. Unfortunately, her fate was not a good one. Her mother left Denmark. She joined the Mormon faith when after her husband had died, and left her a widow with 4 kids. Let's just shut these doors. And her oldest son died on the boat over from Denmark, fell off the upper deck to the lower deck, and they had to bury him at sea, if you can imagine doing that. And then she came over late in the season with the Willie Handcart Company. You know the story. They left too late and got stuck in the snow in Wyoming, and many perished there, froze to death, no food. 17 Miracles is a good show if you've never seen that one. That kind of depicts the Martin and Willie Handcart companies. And she wanted to settle in and not repeat what happened to her mother. And unfortunately, Walter Cox in 1879, about a decade after this house was built, was in a lumber accident, and he died a couple days later and left her widowed with 4 kids. Emma Pedersen eventually remarried, I believe, 2 more times. But she died of old age in 1900 at the age of 50. She had it pretty rough. That's the kitchen. We'll see that in just a second. But this is the pantry. Again, went with some rustic wood that we got from Satterwhite. This is the access to the cellar, which is really scary. There's some old pioneer stairs under there, just a dirt cellar. That's where the furnace is. Love the little archway. That's an old Cox barn that you see in the background. We would love to restore that one day. We didn't have a lot of space to work with in this kitchen. It's pretty narrow. We thought about, since we were redoing so much of it, just ripping the whole thing out and making it bigger, which in hindsight we should have done. Probably would have been cheaper and easier, but alas, we didn't want to make too much of a mess. And part of the southern wall there borders on our neighbor's property line, and so we kept that intact to stay out of his yard as best we could. So what we did is we went up. The ceiling was extremely low. There's the skylight, of course. I have that, more light. So there's no lights turn on in here. It's just natural light, this bright. The old ceiling probably went about here, you know, and we went about 30 inches up or so. So, you know, you would hit your head if you stuck it over here. So we went up quite a bit, and then we vaulted the ceiling where it was cut straight across before. It was probably about a 7-foot ceiling, and then tapered down to about a 6-foot ceiling over there. We moved this door, kept the door, which we probably should have put a wider door in there, because none of the doors here are more than, what, 30 inches, I think. But we moved it over so that we could put this little laundry nook. You can put a little stackable there, the kinds you see in like a hotel room or a condo. A 24-inch wide one would be nice for that spot. And we got these cabinets out of a mansion in Provo. I really liked them. We were going to use them at my parents' place, but we ended up poaching them, fixed them up, kind of tailored them into this spot. This one is actually a bathroom vanity, so it's a little bit different color if you can tell. But what's nice about that is how many kitchen counters or cabinets have an extra drawer down here below the plumbing. Little fire hydrant. So lots and lots of storage here. My wife found this amazing quartzite countertop in Nephi at Economy Flooring. She masterminded all the colors, coordinating all the components here. My parents just moved, and the people that bought their house were going to throw away the appliances, so they grabbed these appliances for us. We didn't even want them or think about them, really. So glad they brought them down, because as you see, they are a perfect fit for this kitchen. We built this little nook here for a microwave, but because we got their microwave, this just works better. Now this is a great spot for cereal boxes or cookbooks or whatever. We ran the plug up here. So really, really nice cabinetry here. All oak, painted oak. It was painted this color when we bought it, and we just bought matching paint to touch it up. We added crown molding up here, and there's a shelf on top. I can show you, but put some flowers up there, but all very, very high quality stuff. This was a challenge. We wanted to fit a table in here, or at least some way to sit down. Again, it's pretty narrow. There's probably about 4 feet-ish, maybe a little less, between counter to counter. So what we did is we had a piece of quartzite cut to fit this nook. And then I found on Amazon these braces. These are heavy-duty steel braces. Painted those, and we anchored in a 2x6 into the wall, into the beams of the wall, the studs, and then we cladded it with 1x6 so it looks nice. And this should support quite a bit of weight. We need to explain that, you know, we don't want anybody standing on this or kids climbing on it, but it'll definitely support a meal, little work area, making cookies. We just got these bar stools actually from Walmart.com. We've got these in our house. We actually like them quite a bit. We do try to support locally as best we can. We do a lot with the local hardware companies, use local, a lot of local talent. Here's another door that we saved. This was on the back of a shed across the street. We pulled it off and saved it from rotting away. This is our slider door for the bathroom. There was a cute little clawfoot tub in here, and my wife really wanted to incorporate that. It would have been super cool, but there's hardly any space in here, and so we felt like a traditional tub with a shower and tile would fit it better. So the clawfoot tub fit this corner, and they had a washer right here, and then a crappy little tiny 24-inch wide vanity there, and then the toilet, I believe, was still there. And it was just, you know, the tub was right there where the vent was, and it was just a mess of a space. So we really maximized the space, shoehorning, you know, in a bigger vanity and full-size tub. We added this massive window for the space. There was a teeny tiny window here, and we kept this window there. Added some cool lighting, and there's the attic access there. This is a tequila color. It's kind of a cream, light cream color, and semi-gloss. Add a tile all the way around the walls. Always wanted to make a bathroom that was all tile, just like they do in Scandinavia. I love the idea of being able to hose off your bathroom, but this is as far as we got. The walls are not straight at all here. Just, you know, we didn't tear this part down. This is much more straight in here, but still, it's been a challenge to fit stuff in here. In fact, the floor kind of slopes down at the end there. So when they added the countertop, there was quite a bit of gap underneath here. And so I added that little trim, that little doorstop trim, to hide the Bondo work that they put in there. But again, I thought it came out really nice. We cut a hole in this door and had a window installed. Again, just big fans of light. So again, this kitchen is not original to the house. The rock wall ends here, as you can probably guess by how thick that archway is. Part of the thickness here is we added, you know, some 2x4s this way, all the way up the wall, so we could run electrical and whatnot, and we insulated a little bit around the edges. Well, this was kind of fun. We ran new ductwork, all new plumbing and electrical, obviously, out here. But I had a hard time finding a vent cover for a 6-inch circular hole. This one came from Amazon, and it was the right color, and we actually spray painted the ducting underneath it so you wouldn't see the bright galvanized steel. That came out pretty nice. So a lot more simple style here. We kind of wanted to match the simplicity of this house. I think Emma probably lived in this house through the 1880s, at least the mid-1880s, with her young kids. She was widowed with 4 kids, all under the age of 7, if I remember correctly. And I believe the next guy she married was abusive, and so she did not have a happy marriage there. And so I believe she divorced the next guy and then married the 3rd guy, which I think was a pretty decent guy. Her mother, I want to say Sophia, I really need to look at my notes. She married Albert, let's see, is it Albert Smith? Boy, I should review this before I say this on a video. But she married a guy that was in the Mormon Battalion with his son, and they were part of the Battle of the Bulls. The dad, who married Emma's mother, was gored in the Battle of the Bulls. The only action that the battalion saw, they did a lot of things on what am I trying to say? The journey west. They blazed trails clear into the San Diego area, and made irrigation ditches, made structures. They were part of the finding of gold in San Francisco at Sutter's Mill, and came back, many of them with gold. And they were all part of that. And Sophia and her husband, if it's Albert, are buried, I believe they're buried here in the Manti Cemetery. Emma Pedersen certainly is, and her grave was recently redone by some of her descendants. I know that locally Kent Barton and his mother were part of that process, which is kind of fun. There's a lot of Frederick Walter Cox descendants here in town still. Many estimate that there are over 30,000 direct descendants of that guy. I don't meet too many descendants from Emma Pedersen, so it's fun to meet some. And Kent's mother isn't too far down the line. I believe it's her great or great grandfather is Frederick Walter Cox. Where for me, I'm a direct descendant through Emmeline Pedersen, and because she was his first wife, and we come through the first son. Frederick Walter Cox is my great grandfather. In any case, it was really a rewarding experience to take part of this remodel slash restoration. There's some more work, like I mentioned, to do on the outside of the house, but you can at least see how we have the inside done. My brother's actually going to be moving in here later today, and I wanted to do a quick video tour before they get settled in. Now, when I get done with the exterior of the house, I'll probably do another video tour and walk through more of the details there. But at least this gives you an idea of some of the history and the background of the Emma Pedersen house. As I mentioned, when we bought it, it was a rental. It was in horrific shape, and so we had to do just about everything to this house, like we did to the house next door. It was a rental. It was a sixplex apartment building, and it was in sad shape. So it is really fun to see this come back to life. You know, just looking at this floor used to dip about 4 inches down in the middle, and we added 2x4 ribs all the way across so we could square it up. So it's not perfect, but it's certainly a lot more level than it was. But as you can see, it's come a long way. It's a nice, comfortable space in here now. Still little. It's probably about 800, 750 square feet total, but certainly was adequate even without the kitchen and bathroom for Emma and her 4 kids. She would have cooked out of this fireplace, not this exact setup, but the fireplace would have been her main means of heat and cooking. And then when they added on to the back, again, I'm not sure when that was. If anybody has information on when that addition was added, I bet it was in the 1920s or early 1900s when that addition was added. I would love to know more. Or if you have any stories about Emma Pedersen, if she is an ancestor of yours, I would love to learn more about her. I've learned a few things from some of the locals, but she was a pretty remarkable lady, and certainly had an incredible story to tell. When her mom was struggling as a widow, she had a vision or a dream that somebody would come to her front door with a message that she needed to hear, that these were people from God, And soon thereafter, the next day, I can't remember the details, Mormon missionaries showed up. Denmark was a real hot spot for religious activity in those early days, and a lot of Danish people converted, and they came over to the United States, and most of the Scandinavians settled this valley. In fact, Ephraim next door was called Little Denmark, but Manti itself was settled by many Scandinavians and a lot of northeastern United Statesians, Americans with British heritage, just like the Coxes here. And what's interesting about that is they kind of settled in their respected areas. The English or the American saints settled in the northwestern part of the town, worked right in the middle, northwestern being over this way. And then the Scandinavians were kind of in the southwestern, southeastern parts of town. And if you look at the architecture over there, it certainly shows, it looks a lot more Scandinavian. But they said 85% of Ephraim in the 1880s was Danish. And that's probably why they hold Scandinavian Days every year, except for this year. Thank you, Corona. And they honor the Icelandic, Danish, Swedish, and Finnish early settlers that established this valley. The Coxes were a large part of the establishment of Manti, as is evident by the many Coxes you find in the phone book today. Most of them coming from this household, and many of the Coxes further north in the valley come from Orville Sutherland Cox, who left his mark there. So anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now, but love your feedback and would love to share any of your knowledge or historical background of the Coxes, of Emma Pedersen Cox, and anything else that you have that might be might add to this amazing story and legacy. Thank you for joining me on this tour. I hope you enjoyed and learned a few things. If anything, if you're like me, it's helped me to appreciate more of what the pioneers went through in those early days to survive. As I mentioned, they had lived 9 years in the fort while they built this house. This house was constructed in 1854 and finished in 61. And so this again was their first real family homestead. It was a real place of joy and laughter and music and learning, and it's been a real treat to get to know some of that family heritage and legacy that happened so long ago. We are the first in the bloodline to come back to this homestead in, I don't know, 130 years probably, if not 140 years. I think the Coxes lived here probably 20 years after they constructed the homes and then moved on after Walter Cox's death. Anyway, enjoy, and thanks again for joining this tour.